Welcome to the Counter Narrative Podcast, a show designed to change the way we talk and think about education. I'm Charles Williams, and together we'll explore untold stories, bold ideas, and innovative approaches that transform our schools and communities. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Counter Narrative Podcast. As always, thank you so much for joining us in this space. If this is your first time, feel free to check it out. I think this is going to be a great conversation. You're definitely going to enjoy yourself. But if you're returning, thank you so much for rejoining us in this space, and I promise not to disappoint you. So today I have a colleague and a friend. We've been trying to get together for a while, for a few months now, and just bouncing back and forth. You know how the world of ed is, but we have finally made it. It is her spring break at the time of this recording, just the end of my spring break. So we are like passing ships once again, but I'm excited to have this conversation because today I have the amazing Melissa Hayes. Melissa, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I hope that you have an incredible spring break. I know mine was an amazing experience, and so being able to, wrap things up, getting students come back tomorrow, but you're just leaning into it. So before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What is the work that you do? Who is Melissa Hayes?
Well, I am from Hilliard, Ohio, and I've been teaching for over 25 years. I'm a rare commodity, I guess, because I've only taught second grade. I subbed from K to 8 my first year out of college, and then my first real job was at an Islamic Arabic school, and I created their curriculum there. And then from there, I've been with a district for this long, and I've only taught second, and I love it, and I can't imagine teaching any other grade level.
So second grade this entire time. That
Yeah,
is incredible.
yeah.
I think I spent maybe like 10, 15 minutes in a kindergarten class once. Uh, I was just covering. The teacher needed to step out, and I was just like, yeah, no, I don't mind being the administrator of that grade level, but like teach so kudos to you. Kudos to you.
I know. I was one class away from my kindergarten certificate, and I just didn't get it. And I don't know. I don't know if I have quite the patience of that amazing teacher that teaches kindergarten.
Yeah, it was something. It was something. I came from teaching middle and high school. And so to be in that space, I was just accustomed to a little more autonomy. And so that does not exist it does not exist in the way that one would hope. Let me put it that way in a kindergarten classroom. So
I think middle and high school would be more scary than kindergarten. I would take kindergarten over middle and high school.
yeah, see, everybody has their own spaces. My wife has taught middle school for the entirety of her career. I've bounced between middle and high, and now as an administrator, I've done the entire gamut. But I do miss my elementary space. I enjoyed it mostly because as a principal at an elementary school, it's like being a rock star 24/7. Like the kids, I just saw you 5 minutes ago, but they're like, "Oh my God, there he is!" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm curious as we dive into today on this first day of your spring break, or maybe second day, as we're diving in, what is it that's weighing on you? What is it on your mind, on your heart that you want to have a conversation about today?
I am a firm believer that school should be fun. Um, and also, I love technology and there should be a balance. And I
Hmm.
know that there's a lot of people that think technology is a bad thing, that the kids are always on their iPads and there's no purpose, or that the kids are too little and they can't do the things that the older kids can. So I'm a firm believer that any child, even kindergarten, can do things no matter the ability.
It's interesting that you bring this up because I've heard this conversation a lot more, right? Especially, I spend a lot of time at conferences, and AI is obviously a very big topic right now. And so there's been a lot of conversation around balancing that space of fun and tech, right? Keeping
Mhm.
an eye on the goal. But I think that you're bringing up a critical point about how this plays into the space with little people, because oftentimes, like, you're right. It's like, I don't know if they can yet. I don't know if they can, despite the fact that we argue that these babies are now born with technology in their hands, and yet we also don't think they can handle it. So
Yeah.
I think you're bringing up a good point.
Yeah. My kids thrive on anything new that I learn from a conference or learn from colleagues or Twitter. I gained so many friends back when it was Twitter. It's a little different now, but I thrive with them and then I teach them things and they take it to the next level. And like I said, it's not a play, it's really purposeful. For example, we're going to do March Madness when we come back from spring break. I have two basketball hoops in my classroom and I have them in groups. And after they have a minute to shoot, they do like three trials. And then after that, they use the numbers app to graph everyone in their group and how many shots they made and which trial they had. So there's a lot of math involved, there's a lot of tech involved, there's a lot of listening, cooperation, patience, leadership. So there's a lot goes on, but they have a lot of fun too.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. I'm a baseball guy. You could see the baseball bat back there. My wife got me a personalized Cubs baseball bat for my birthday. Go Cubbies! But my question for you is, we're thinking about this, like, and you said you've been in spaces. I'm sure you've had these conversations with people. Why do you think it is that there's such a prevalent mindset out there that, one, right, we lose sight of finding that balance of technology and fun, uh, but also, why is there a belief that our littles, our babies in our schools, aren't able to engage with technology in the same ways that maybe some of their older peers are?
Well, I think there's a couple of factors that play into it that some people might not think of when they share their knowledge at a conference, that a lot of districts don't allow certain
Mm.
things. They might not have the iPads, they might not have the Wi Fi access. They might be told from higher ups that this is a third through fifth issue and not a K through K2 um, task that they should be doing. So there's factors that can be out of their hands. There's other factors where they're just might be nervous. There's another thing on their plate they have to do. Whereas if they just follow the script and go along with the curriculum of reading, writing, and math, that's all they have time for. So there's factors that could be out of their control. I am not one to ask. I just do and then ask for forgiveness later, which probably is not the best thing to do. But anyone who knows me knows that I kind of play against, and my kids are number one, so I'm secondary. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of factors, but I am a bit huge proponent that all kids can. I know my kids do student led conferences even back when Flip was in the day, and I loved Flip. That's how they um, hook their audience, their parents. We did a flip. They talked about the year, and then they showed the video when they came with the conference. And then after the video, they showed them the work, and it kind of broke the ice. Now that we don't have flip, we use Apple Clips, which they love because they can add all the tech and make it all, or all the words, the text, and they can make it their own. It's not the same, but it does the job and the parents love it and the kids take ownership on what they do. And I think that's where we lose sight of our academics, is when we put ourselves first instead of our kids, because our kids should be at the forefront and they should have the empowerment of, this is my academic year and I need to charter this course just as much as my teacher. So my kids have a lot of voice and choice in what they learn and how they learn it.
And I appreciate that. And I heard a couple of things, especially that gem that you just dropped, like this idea of us putting ourselves first. That's when we lose sight of that, right? When we're talking about student-centered spaces, we're prioritizing our own comfort over their learning possibilities. That's a huge issue. So I'm glad you surfaced that.
And I do that all the time. Don't feel like I'm preaching because I do it in a staff meeting when they're saying this. And I'm like, how do I have time? There's the I.
Yeah.
How do I? And I have to take a step back and realize, is this really my problem? But I do it a lot and I have to reflect and debrief a lot every week.
No, that's actually my point, right? I think we all do, right? For anybody to sit there and say, well, you should never, like, then you're probably never in a classroom. But the fact that, like, this is a natural thing, but as you just pointed out, to be able to recognize it, pause, take that step back and say, am I doing the right thing here? Right? Am I really truly protecting myself, or if I'm just putting my comfort over their learning opportunities, right? And so being able to recognize and engage in that process is critical. And then you also mentioned access. I think access is another critical point. In fact, you and I were just having some tech issues kicking things off because sometimes the spaces that we're in, it's like, nope, you don't get to have access to that, right? And so even thinking about complaining or being frustrated around a student's ability to manipulate a tool to say, well, if that child doesn't have regular access to these tools, then how can you blame them from not knowing how to navigate that space? And so even looking at some of the policies within districts, within schools, and saying, are you inadvertently creating the very barrier that now you're complaining about?
Exactly. Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head.
So, I'm curious, at the beginning of this, you specifically mentioned balancing tech and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about where people who are diving in, how they might be missing that mark of maybe prioritizing one over the other?
I'm not sure if they prioritize one or the other. I think, and everyone knows their kids, everyone knows their interests. For me, it's huge about what my kids enjoy and what can hook them more than anything. I know for second grade, let's just put it out there, writing is not their favorite thing to do. Um, but we have a weather unit. So I teach weather as part of science. So I integrate everything within each other. Nothing is in isolation. I don't agree with that. I think if you can embed as much as you can, let's do it. So we have a transformation where they walk in and everything looks like raindrops and there's umbrellas and there's snow and there's a rainbow. And when they come in, they put their raincoats on or their ponchos on and they have flashlights and then there's a lightning display going on. But when we first start the day, I tell them to research the most dangerous weather condition. What do you think is the most dangerous weather condition? And we kind of brainstorm that. And some kids will say like a flood or a thunderstorm or hurricane or tsunami, tornado. And then they get into groups, and this is the fun part. They get to act out this scene. So they have their raincoat on, and it looks like a tornado. So they go on Pic Collage, which is super kid friendly for kindergarten preschoolers, even. And they look up scenes of a tsunami or a tornado, and they find one, and it's kind of like that backdrop. And then I or someone else takes a picture of them acting out. So they might be holding on to each other like a windstorm, and then someone takes a picture, takes the background off, and puts them in that background. And what's amazing is they're going to write about everything they learned about that tsunami or that hurricane that they learned from reading books. They're going to write about that on Google Doc or on, yeah, Google Docs. And then they're going to add that picture to it. And right there, they're hooked about what they're doing and they're writing. It's the best, one of the best activities. The other one we do is a fashion show. It's around October. So I have a red carpet and I have a box of things because October, all the costumes come out. And I put them out in the hall and they get dressed up and I have fashion music on and they walk the runway. And all the kids are lined up along the red carpet snapping pictures of all these famous fashion models walking. And then when we're all done, they pick one model and they write about them. So and so really walked the catwalk like they owned it. They were wearing glitter hair and this and this and this. So it's working on descriptive writing. It's fun. So I think it's just knowing your comfort level, starting small and then expanding, but also knowing you have a lot of things at your fingertips that you don't realize. Like, I think I got that red carpet for $4 at Amazon, and all the other stuff I got after Halloween that were like 50 cents or $1 in the dollar store. So everything is kind of at your fingertips. You might have a lot in your basement and closet, but that was just writing. But I know I say start small and add, but you don't know how creative you can be until you tap into it. And I just love hearing someone saying, "Oh, I love that idea," and then they bounce off of that, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I never even thought about that. That's such a great idea." So
Well, I'm sure there are plenty of people listening right now that are saying, I love that idea. Because I love that idea. And of course, I'm already thinking like, how can we scale this up to like the high school level, right? I think so oftentimes at the high school space, people are like, well, they're young adults. They don't do these things. And I'm like, they're still kids, right? I sat in a freshman math class the other day doing an observation, and the kids were going wild over, hey, make sure you give me my stamp, make sure you give me my sticker. And it was just like these are freshmen, right? But there's this concept, this belief that play no longer has a place in the space, and so I'm glad that you were talking about these wonderful ideas. I was like, man, this sounds phenomenal. I want to come and watch your class and put on a raincoat and pretend I'm in a rainstorm. Not that we not that we have to pretend too much. Apparently, you and I both have had some pretty severe weather over the last couple
yeah,
of days, so not too much pretending there. But I'm curious then, as people are listening to this and they're like, man, this is some great ideas. You dropped a few different tools here and there as we've been talking, so I'll be sure to make include those in the show notes. But if people are leaving this conversation and they're saying, hey, I'm inspired by Melissa, I want to balance this idea of tech and fun, even if I do have the little people in my space. What are some very easy ways? What are some next steps that they can do to begin this, transition or shift within their own classroom?
I would just say having an open mind and getting with your people. I mean, your grade level, bounce some ideas. There's some amazing people I've learned from um, on Twitter that are just, I mean, their creativity is off the charts. So I would just say get with your people, start out small. Don't be afraid to try it. And I've had many things flop where I'm like, I'm not doing that again. And knowing your kids too, that's a big one, which everyone does. But just knowing what hooks them. And like you said, those bigger kids, I would love for my daughter to come home in middle school and high school and be like, Mom, you'll never guess what we did. I think she had one time her whole, I mean, she's graduating from college in social work this in May. But I would just love for her to have more experiences because elementary is where the magic is, I feel like. And then it dies off in middle and high. And I wish there was a lot of, I think Laura Steinbrück, she is amazing. And she's high school. And you know her, right?
I do.
She is awesomely awesome. And she's just, I love her. And we just Zoomed with her this past week, which I need to put it out there with her kids. But I don't know. I would just say start small and don't be afraid to try and fail because I fail all the time. I fail enthusiastically, let's just say.
I love that. Failing enthusiastically. Yeah, I love this idea of just diving in and giving it a go. And I think one of the biggest pieces of this episode is just that transparency and vulnerability. You're like, listen, I make mistakes, I've messed up, and it's okay. It's going to be part of the process. Because if all we do is play it safe, then we're never going to be able to actually dive in and engage in these practices. So, like, take the leap, take the risk. You might mess up, and if you do, that's okay. There's going to be other opportunities. So, and congrats to your daughter graduating in May. My youngest will graduate in August from culinary school. So very excited for her. She's up in New York right now. So hopefully she comes home and then like does some amazing stuff here. So we'll see what happens.
Well, congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you. We like as parents of adult kids who are graduating, like we need a celebration because it's like, whew, like we got you through all of that. So,
That's
uh,
right.
So before we close out, I'm sure that there are individuals who are listening and saying, "Man, Melissa, this was an excellent episode. I've learned a lot from you in the short amount of time that we're able to spend together. But how can I learn from you some more? How can I connect? How can I see some of the amazing things that you're doing?"
Well, I'm on X, I guess now what it's called. It's at Mrs. Capital H Hayes, capital M for Mrs. Capital H for Hayes, Bam. So I'm on X. I think I'm on Instagram, but I don't remember it because I think I deleted it because my um the data was coming to a close and I needed to free up some. And I'm on Facebook, Missy Dash Sisson Hayes. Um, yeah, those are just the two I'm on, but you can message me anytime.
Appreciate that. Yeah, Instagram is a space that I'm still trying to explore. My daughters make fun of me for it. They're like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know. Please help." But it's like, instead of just making fun of me, why don't you support? Like, but I remember toying with, feeling like a coder because I was able to make my MySpace glitter and dance, right? Like those were the things, and the kids are like, MySpace. I don't know. But
I
anyway,
know
that's a whole another.
it's a whole nother topic.
Well, Melissa, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me in this space. Obviously, we finally were able to connect. I think it was well worth the wait because this was a fantastic, fantastic conversation. But more importantly, thank you for all the work that you're doing, for committing yourself to second grade. We need strong, powerful foundational teachers such as yourself, setting that up for those later years. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And to all of those watching, those listening, as always, until next time.